Hi, I'm Kristen, and in this video I'm going to tell you the story of the quilted advent calendar I made for my sister this year. This was the brief she gave me. It sounds a little silly, but my sister's really good. When she asks me to make something, she lets me know what she wants, which is good because then you have like parameters to work from. So she knew which wall she wanted to hang it on, so she told me the maximum width. She knew the kind of gifts she wanted to give her son in the advent calendar, so she kind of gave me a parameter for which size the pockets should be. She wanted different size pockets for sure, and she definitely wanted the numbers out of order. So that was my starting point. So I'm going to show you how to sort of arrange your own advent calendar like this and make pockets and all of that stuff. But I can't give you the exact measurements for all the bits of fabric because I was doing this project kind of quickly. Short backstory was that I sent my Christmas presents a little late last year and they didn't get there until Boxing Week. So I really wanted to get this out the door and gone before December. So I didn't maybe take the care to measure everything for a tutorial in the way I normally would. But I think you'll still be able to make your own with the instructions that I've going to give you. But the materials I used were some scraps of Christmas fabric, some scraps of solids, leftover batting scraps. I did my sort of Franken batting thing. I've got another video about that if you're not sure what I mean. I also used leftover binding from my queen size Quilt As You Go scrap quilt as well. So starting with the overall size she'd given me, I kind of picked a length. I knew I kind of wanted to do a rough Christmas tree shape kind of idea. And I cut out some paper to see whether I could make the pockets fit. I did that on card on the floor before this quilted backing that you can see, but I didn't take a picture of it. So I had these numbers from another piece of scrap fabric, just cut the numbers out, put them on top of the paper, and kind of said, will that roughly fit? I did end up changing where things went, where the numbers went as I went along, but it was just so I knew I could fit 24 pockets on that size of a background before I got started. I pieced together some batting scraps to make enough. If you haven't seen my video about joining batting, I'll put a link to it in the description. And I then used 2 remnants of Christmas fabric to just make up the background. So I just used some sort of lightish colors and quilted it with straight lines. And I didn't put a backing fabric on that. So that's just the top fabric and the batting, and I just quilted it with straight lines. Then I did my paper layout, and then I did my layout with fabric. So I cut the squares out that I thought I was going to use and just laid those out roughly in place. In terms of what size to make these pieces of fabric that you're cutting, you have to make a decision about whether you want to do kind of concertina-style pockets or flat pockets. So concertina ones are the ones that kind of puff out a bit, and I'll show you. I do have a video of how to make those coming up. But you have to decide which kind you want, and then I just cut the fabric a little bit bigger than I need. So if you want to do a kind of concertina pocket, you're going to need at least, I would say, an extra 1.5 inches on either side. Probably better to go for 2, and then we'll trim it down. And if you want to do just a flat pocket, then it just needs to be a 1/2 inch larger than the size that you've cut out for your paper. But even if you're doing a flat pocket, I would still cut it just a little bit bigger because we are going to be quilting these before we put the lining fabric for the pockets on. So you always just want to make things you're quilting a tiny bit bigger and then trim it down. So I use this opportunity to try lots of different quilting techniques on a small scale. So this one's a kind of crosshatch thing, and then I just raw edge applique the number on. So I then just lined up my backing fabric here. So if it's a directional print, you want it to be going upside down, and you're going to cut it wrong sides to wrong sides, and it's going to be the same size as the pocket plus 1 inch, so 1 inch taller, longer, higher than your pocket, because we're going to fold it over and kind of self-bind the pockets at the top. I'm just cutting it that way so that I can make sure that the direction is going to go the way I want, because this is a directional print. But obviously you don't have to cut wrong sides to wrong sides or do it this way, and you could just measure the pieces and cut them separately, but this is how I've been doing it. So then you put them right sides to right sides. Make sure that extra bit of fabric is up at the top of the pocket, And then you're going to sew at a 1/4 inch with a back stitch at each top end all the way around, turning obviously at the corners. And that's going to make our pocket once we flip it open. So it should look something like this. And then you're going to trim your corners and then turn it right side out. So you can use something like a chopstick or a pen to poke the corners. For this one, I'm just using my fingers. And then I would press it flat, but for the purposes of the video, I wasn't doing that here. So I'm just going to lay it out, and you're going to see that backing or lining fabric, sorry, is going to fold in. Just keep it like that. And then we're going to fold over so that the raw edges kind of line up. So raw edge to raw edge, and then flip it one more time. And then you're going to pin it in place and sew across. So you use a top stitch for that, so a little longer stitch length, and that is the sort of outer bit of your pocket. Now this is how we do the concertina type pocket, so the one that kind of puffs out a little bit when you fill it. So you got to fold it twice essentially. So one is for the depth of the pocket and the other is to attach it to the backing. So I'm just kind of making sure, so I don't have exact measurements, but I'm basically making sure here that that last bit that's folded that you can see with the blue, where you can see the lining fabric, can take a 1/4 inch seam. So it has to be at least that deep. It can be deeper, but it can't be less deep than that because you need to be able to have enough space to sew it on. So I'm just measuring here. It's a little bit less than an inch. And so I'm going to try and do the same on the other side. And the reason it's not specific is basically because I've put that number kind of off-centered on the front of the pocket. So I had to make sure you can see the number. So that was kind of the limit to how much I could fold this one. So this was a kind of improv advent calendar to a point. So you can plan yours out a bit better. But anyway, that's the concept. So then once you've done that, you stitch down the side twice, so at about 1/8 of an inch and about a 1/4 inch, and then do the same on the other side. So I've unfolded it there, so you're only stitching through the one fold. So I hope you can see that there. I hope that makes sense. You're just stitching to make what's going to be the front corner of your pocket. As I went along making pockets, I would pin them onto the backing just to see where they're going to fit. Is it still working? Which ones do I still have to do? So I just pin them in place like that. So there's number 18 going on. And I did have to make a number of adjustments because sometimes the pockets end up coming up smaller than you think and sometimes a bit bigger depending on how big you end up making those folds for the concertina pockets. So again, you could plan this out more than I did using this general method, I guess. And as I said, I did do a mixture of flat pockets and these, what I'm calling these concertina pockets. So the number 2 below there, so that's a flat one. So I don't think I folded that one. And I'll show you another one that I didn't fold closer up in a second. So I continued on like that, making pockets, quilting them, and then sort of playing with the layout as I went along until I had them all quilted. And then I decided on the final layout, which is this one here. Start attaching the pockets. I'll start with the concertina ones. You need to sew down the outer edge of your pocket at 1/8 of an inch and a 1/4 inch on either side. But you want to make sure that when you fold it open, that bit's hidden. So you're not trying to splay it. So that looks a bit splayed in that picture. You're actually trying to make it look folded like this. So then when it's finished, it's hidden. And then you then sew along the bottom edge, 2 lines again, 1/4 inch and a 1/4 of an inch, so that it's fastened all the way down. So you're stitching right over both edges of the pocket to close it. And then for the flat pocket, you're just going all the way around 1/4 inch and 1/8 of an inch. And don't forget to backstitch at the top of your pockets. If that explanation was all a bit too fast, I will try and get a blog post up that explains it in more detail. And when I do, I'll put the link in the description. So this is what the back looks like when you're finished with that step. And I then found a bit of old duvet cover that I used for a backing. And so I basted that, and then I did a bit of additional quilting. So I decided to do the outline of Christmas tree around it and do a few like what do you call it? Twinkles on the edge of the stars. So number 24 up at the top was a piece of star fabric. So I decided to do a few embellishments. I didn't draw out any lines. I was practicing using my quilting rulers for maybe the first or second time. I can't remember. So I don't feel like I can teach you how to do this step particularly, but it was just outlining it essentially. And I think I put it down after I'd done the first Christmas tree outline and decided I wanted to echo it. So I did it twice. So hopefully you can see it. It's very faint, but anyway, just in case anyone couldn't see, it was a Christmas tree. I then didn't take a video of how you put on the hanging. So this is a video from another much smaller project, but the concept is the same. So you basically take 2 squares of fabric, fold them, and then put the raw edges to the top corners of your project. So, and then sew all the way around. So I'm using a zigzag stitch, but you can also use a straight stitch. And that attaches them. And then for this small project, I'm using a pen as a dowel, but for the advent calendar, I bought a dowel on Amazon, and I'll put a link to where you can find those in the description. And you just hang them on the wall on the dowel. If you saw my queen size Quilt As You Go video, you might know I made far too much binding, so I used some of that for this. And then I got it straight in the post to her, so she got it actually super early. So I almost didn't make this video because I thought I didn't maybe have all the details that folk would want, but I figured I might as well just share it, even if it's just as a concept, an idea, and you guys can do what you want with the instructions I was able to give you. So if you like sewing and quilting with scraps, then please do subscribe, leave me a comment, let me know what you think, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye.